Hey, hi, Shan. Thank you so much for joining this interview. So myself and Ratna will be panel for today's discussion. So we are hiring for DevOps engineer, and we are looking for someone who is very strong at the pipelines and taking care of end to end. So that's the intro about the role. So very excited to have a discussion with you. Could you walk me through your profile and your current project?
Yeah, Santosh, it was very nice, and thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's my pleasure to present myself to you. That I'm Sean. I have around 5 years of experience, extensively worked in DevOps, where I have a wide range of hands-on experience on multiple tools and multiple platforms. Especially in the cloud, I have worked on AWS as well as on Azure. And in the operating system, I have a good hands-on experience on Linux administration. And in terms of a scripting, I'm very strong with the shell as well as a Python scripting. And in terms of infrastructure as a core tools, I have extensive hands-on experience on Terraform as well as Ansible. And I'm very specialized with microservices, especially with Docker, Kubernetes, and OpenShift. On top of all these things, I have a great extensive experience in designing, implementing, and configuring end-to-end pipelines for different applications like Java, Node.js, AngularJS, React.js, and Spring. And this is a quite overview of what I have a knowledge. And on top of all these things, I do have a exposure towards some monitoring, logging, as well as orchestrating and designing the applications and in monolithic applications as well as microservices in the cloud platforms. So this is
Okay.
a short intro from my side, Santosh.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean, for that intro. So, what exactly you do on your daily basis? What's your day-to-day work?
Okay, so let me explain you about my application. See, my application is a retail application. So where we are selling different products to multiple customers. So this end-to-end application we hosted on AWS, and few services we are consuming it from Azure as well. It's like a 50-50 workload which we are running 50% on AWS and 50% on Azure platform. Now, with regards to my day-to-day work, this entire application we are running it on a microservices platform. So in AWS we are taking EKS, and in Azure we are taking AKS part. So whenever a new feature is to be released, so that future development team they will develop the code. And my duty is like ensuring that this code has to get delivered to the customer. So whatever the workflow, like once the developer done with his work, once he pushes the code to the master, once he merges the code to the master branch, my end-to-end work starts. So I have designed the entire CI/CD process. So in a such a way that once the code merge happens to the master, immediately my build pipeline will trigger. It will create the artifact, and a proper versioning will be added to that. And that version, again, developers I facilitated with the deployment pipeline where they will pick that version and they will deploy the version to the respective environment. If they would like to deploy it onto AWS, they can deploy it. If they would like to deploy it on Azure, they can. So this entire orchestration work, whatever is there, this is my day-to-day work. Not only that, but also like if any new service onboarding has to be done. So I will be taking care of onboarding that service, which includes creating the Git repositories, which includes the sonar related project creations, which includes whether if any requirement of automation for that, and creating the entire pipelines like pull request pipeline, build pipeline, and deployment pipelines. So all these things will be my day-to-day responsibilities, and I will be taking care of the production releases as well. Whenever there is a production release is there, I will ensure that everything is going to the production in a smooth way.
Okay, great. I heard you talking about EKS, and we are also using EKS in our current application. So, could you help me to understand, like, how do you onboard an application to EKS?
Yeah, definitely, Santosh. See, we are having two categories of services. One is our front end, and second one is a back end. So in the back end, we are running Java, and in the front end, we are using our React.js application. So when we say like we need to onboard a new service, sorry, just give me a sec, guys. Of application which is a front end and back end. So let's say like we are onboarding one application. So first requirement is like I will be creating a namespace, and I'll be creating the respective deployment, and I'll be creating a service for that. and I have to ensure that a proper routing has to be done. So hence I'll be creating an ingress object for that. So this entire workflow I have automated with my Helm chart. So where Helm will help me in onboarding an application in a smooth way. So where I have created a Helm chart where I will be passing what is the application name, and what kind of replicas, like how many replicas that I need to have, and in which environment that it has to be deployed, and how many environments that I want to have. Let's say like I want to have dev, UAT, SIT, PT, pre-prod, and production. So based upon the environments that I'm passing, so what this Helm chart will do is like it will create the entire AML structure for, let's say like if I say like a dev, then it will create an AML for a dev namespace. It will create an AML for a dev deployment. It will create an AML for a dev service. It will create an AML for a dev ingress, and then it will go ahead and it will apply it to my EKS cluster. Like the same way, we do have a parallel deployment which is going to happen on a EKS. Like I mentioned, 50-50 workloads we are running on both the clusters, where these two clusters are shared across two different cloud providers. We don't want to have anything related to the vendor locking. So hence we decided to go with both the cluster, both the different cloud providers. If in case like if one cloud goes down, we don't need to worry because we have another cloud which is up and running. So our application is so critical that we don't want to face any sort of a downtime. So we have designed our deployment strategy in such a way that if you're doing one activity, then automatically the activity is going to get a sync to both the clouds at a time. So this is how we are going to onboard Santosh.
Okay, thanks for that. So, one quick question. We had a similar challenge in our current project. So, imagine that we are deploying an application and the application comes with a lot of issues. So, the development team is working very hard to fix that. So, every day we'll have many deployments. Like they do a small fix, they do a deployment, they do a small fix, again they push it into a GitHub, right? So, in fact, as a DevOps engineer, how do you handle this situation? You cannot keep on running your DevOps pipeline every now and then, right? So how do you handle the situation?
Okay, yeah, that was a nice question, Santosh. Right. See, that's the reason, so we have differentiated between the CI and the CD part properly. So what I mean to say is like, as part of a CI, which is presenting me as a continuous integration part. Let's say like in your case, you are having a multiple developers. You might be having a 30-40 developers who are continuously developing the code. But one thing we need to understand is whatever the code that which we are developing, it doesn't mean that it should go to production. So there is a breaking point where the code might get approved. The code might get, it has to be tested and it has to be validated. So hence, as part of a CI, we have created a pipeline called a PR pipeline, which is my pull request pipeline. So when any developer, when he feels like, okay, he's done with the code, so that code has to get analyzed in terms of a security, in terms of a vulnerability, in terms of a dependency, and in terms of a, token validations for a trivy. All these checks has to be passed. Then only we can consider that code is a valid code or not. Once the pull request is approved, so this has to get approved internally inside the team. Once it is getting approved, then he is going to merge that pull request into the master branch. Now, the moment he merges the code to the master branch, again, we have an automatic. So here, if you see this entire workflow, there is no human intervention. So this entire workflow is just a matter of clicking few buttons. You go ahead, you click on the pull request button, immediately your pipeline will get triggered because I have configured the auto triggers where the triggering is going to happen immediately. The moment you merge the code to the master, immediately a trigger will happen and automatically the pipeline will get executed.
Okay.
And so since you are merging the code,
I'm sorry. One quick question again. So imagine that in a day you have 10 pull requests created and you are merging the code with your master 10 times. Does that mean that your pipeline also runs for 10 times?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay, but I don't want that happen. Let's say that there are multiple developers who are working on a daily basis. I want the last branch, that is I merge to master, right? Imagine today we have 10 PRs created. As a final PR, I am the team leader. So I'll be managing the entire code. So when I create a PR, only that has to go to the pipeline. Is that possible?
Yes, that even is possible. It depends upon the entire branching strategy, how you are going to take it up, Santosh. Let's say like if you are going up with a branching strategy as a trunk based approach, then as part of a trunk, every change whatever you want to have, you're going to merge it to the master. But if you are going with as a Git branching strategy, then you can have multiple branches. Like you can have your feature branch, which is a long living. You can have your release branch, which is a long living. You can have a master, which is a long living branch. But when you are going with your trunk based approach, you cannot go ahead and have multiple long living branches where you have to trust your master. If situation is demanding you to go with your trunk based, then it's a mandatory that you have to have your every PR that has to be validated, verified. Imagine like I have a developer one who have raised a pull request and I'm not testing it. Let's say like on top of that, I have one more pull request which have raised by someone else. Let's say like I have 3-4 developers, or let's say like in your case 10 developers, 9 developers, they have raised a pull request properly. Their code is working. So now what happens is like the in between there is one developer, the third developer, whatever the PR he raised, it is not proper. The code dependency itself, it is a failing. Imagine like we will take up with your stand, like where at the end of the day, let's say like evening 5 p.m. I want to build it. So 5 p.m. when I try to build it, because of this guy's PR, now I am blocking all other 9 PRs. So there is a blocker here. So where there is no continuous integration is going to happen here. Continuous integration is going to happen at the end of the day, which is possible. But because of some other guy's mistake, I'm blocking all other developers. This is one scenario. But like you asked me, 100% we can implement. Instead of triggering my pipeline on every merge or on every pull request or on every PR event, what I can do is like I can create a build job with a cron job. I will create a pipeline which will run on a cron. So where on a cron basis, let's say like every 5 p.m. every day I want to run it. You don't need to do anything. Automatically that guy will pull out the code. He will check how many PRs that been raised. Every PR he will try to check out to the particular code. He will do the validation and he will give you the final email confirmation. That also we can do. Everything is possible.
Okay. I mean, you need not write the code, but could you orally help me to understand what is a cron expression that you give it to execute a pipeline on daily basis at morning 8 o'clock?
Yeah. So it will be like a 0008.
Okay.
So every day it is 8 a.m. right? So then it is a star.
Okay. What if I am looking for UTC time?
The time zone part. So then what I have to do is like I have to write a small shell script, because this entire workflow where it is running is also very important for me. So I have to collect, let's say like if you are running this on our server, then I have to collect the date. What is the current date in which mission that this execution is happening? Then ideally the time zone will be in UTC. Let's say like it is there in IST. So then I have to add the conversion from IST to the UTC, and then I have to make sure that particular time, the difference of IST with UTC, whatever is there, I will be adding or I will be doing a difference, and then I will be running my cron job.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Sean. Thanks for your answer. So Ratna will take forward from here.
Yeah.
Hey, hi Ratna.
Hi Sean. So thanks for this. So your answers and all. And coming to me, I had few questions on the DevOps part, which I had a few similar things which Santosh has already covered. But yeah. So may I know what kind of CI/CD strategy that you are following? I mean to say like the deployment strategy.
Okay, so the deployment strategies, we have different ways, Ratna, which we are doing. So one of the approach which we go is like canary deployment. So this is the deployment strategy which we are having. Like I told you, we are running our application across different clusters, which is stressed across different clouds, right? So we don't want to have a big outage to the customers. So generally we tend to go with the canary part.
Yeah, we also have the blue-green deployment strategy. So what's the main difference between the canary and the blue-green, and what is the advantages and disadvantages? Can you please let me know?
Yeah, sure. See, in both these approaches, our ultimate goal is to make sure that we are having a smooth release to the production. So when we consider about the blue-green deployment as well as the canary deployment, for these deployment strategies to get applied, we have to ensure that we are having more than one cluster available. Let's talk about the blue-green part. So I'm having two different clusters. One cluster I'm going to call it as a blue. Second cluster I'm going to call it as a green. Now let's say like I am already having in production version 1.0 is there in the production. I want to go with version 1.1. This is my latest release that I want to take. Now in the blue-green deployment, what I will do is like I'll go ahead and I'll deploy version 1.1 in one of the existing cluster. Let's say like in the blue, I will be deploying version 1.1, where I have to ensure that there is no traffic landing on blue. My entire 100% workloads, I will be sending it on to the green. So now whatever the testing, like my integration testing, my performance testing, my the upstream connectivities, the downstream connectivities, the entire application behavior, everything, whatever the things that which I need to validate, everything I will be doing it on the blue cluster. And the moment where we feel like, okay, a dummy transaction, I'll be doing it, everything is working fine. The moment we feel like it is going good. So then what we are going to do is like, then we will go ahead and we will start sending the traffic to the blue cluster. And we will cut down the traffic onto the green cluster. We will keep our green cluster for a while, like let's say for a while means like maybe for a 1 week or for 10 days to see what is the behavior that is happening. If in case like something got screwed out, my version 1.1, it is not working as expected. Some bugs are there. Some customers are facing some downtimes, or they are not accessing the application. In such cases, immediately I will have a failback scenario where I will go ahead and I will make my green cluster up. But the main drawback with your blue-green deployment strategy is like, imagine like I am making my entire workflow to follow on the blue, which means it is going to impact all the customers who are currently consuming the application. If in case version 1.1 is down, it's not working as expected, then all the customers who are consuming will have a downtime. I can revert back immediately in a matter of a minute, but still that 1 minute might cost me so much revenue. So that's the reason, as part of our industry standards. So I like I told you, like we can't even imagine, losing a trust from the customer point of view. So hence we always go with the canary. Now in canary, my business team knows that the impact what they can bear on their pockets. So in canary, I'm going to have two different clusters, but I will be deploying version 1.1 into one cluster where I will ensure that my traffic manager is sending the traffic onto version 1.1 cluster. Let's say like only 2% traffic. I will pick up the least impacted region. Let's say like I told you, I'm running my application on multiple regions. I mean, it's a global application. So I will pick up the region where I have less transactions, less users coming. So I will ensure that whenever this version 1.1, when I will be allowing only to a particular percentage, let's say like a 2% of traffic I will be enabling, which means like out of 100 requests, only 2 users will land. Now, out of those 2 users, if one guy is failing and if other guy, if it is working, we will get immediately a ticket raised. Let's say like you're booking a ticket, right? If the ticket is getting failed for 2 users out of 100, doesn't matter. I'll simply go and I will see, okay, because of this region, there is some small thing. And the benefit what you are going to do or what you are going to gain is like, you can do a live testing as well. So till you fix your 2% of your issue, you can run your remaining 98% of your traffic with the older version 1.0. The moment you fix version 1.1, you can start slowly increasing the traffic like 10%, 15%, 30%. The moment you gain a confidence that, okay, we are good to go, then immediately what I will do is like, I will make 100% traffic onto version 1.1 and I will keep version 1.0 for a time being. And later point of time, I will deploy version 1.1 as well to the other cluster and we will go live. So this will give me the confidence, Ratna.
Okay, super. And I'll go to the let's say Jenkins part. So for example, we know like the Jenkins will be configured, for example, with access key and secret key. So I'm asking like, is there a way to configure Jenkins with AWS without access key and secret key?
Yes, we do have a flexibility. So in AWS, we have a secret manager. So where Jenkins provide you a feature of secret manager plugin. So whenever you feel like you need to pull the secrets from the AWS, you can go ahead and you can integrate this plugin. What this plugin will do is like, it will go and it will automatically sync all these credentials from AWS to the Jenkins part. So where you can easily act them, you can directly go ahead and consume them like your environment variables, where you don't see those credentials in the Jenkins, but end of the day, you're keeping those credentials in the AWS directly. Not only AWS, but if you want to integrate as a third-party vendor like HashiCorp Vault also you can integrate, where you can directly go ahead and you can update your credentials in the Vault, that in your HashiCorp Vault, and from there you can integrate in the Jenkins. That also feasible.
Yeah. So the next thing is like, for example, in VPC peering, it is accepting the outside VPC and how to restrict them to some extent. For example, so I mean to say like VPC peering is the network connection. It is going to enable between 2 VPCs, right? So we want to restrict the external addresses in the sense like external VPC standpoints. For example, I don't want the on-premise. I want to only talk to the multi cloud environments. Okay, for example, so in AWS we had the VPC, and in Azure we had the VNet. So how we can integrate both of them?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ratna. Fine. See, when you are going with your two different clouds, so let's say like I
Mm.
want to integrate the networking between AWS and Azure. You can go ahead and you can use a concept called peering, not peering exactly, VPN.
Mhm.
So you can go ahead and you can create a VPN gateway, so which will act like a backbone for your both the clouds. So one thing which is a tricky over here is like, so since this is a VPN to VPN communication, you have to have a common standpoint. Like you have to have a connectivity to your on-premise, because AWS is going to provide you a concept called AWS Direct Connect, whereas Azure is going to provide you a concept called Express Route. If you are going with your VPN part, allowing the communication, then it is going to be a communicated over the internet. It is going to get allowed a communication over the internet with the security, where you are going to generate your certificates, where you will trust those certificates, and it can happen, which is an easy solution where the communication will be a bit faster. But
Yeah.
another solution is like, you don't want to expose your infrastructure onto internet. You don't want to take the risk of internet. Then what you can do is like, you can redirect your workloads of your Azure onto your on-premise, where from on-premise already you are having a connectivity to your AWS. So where we can add a reverse route traffic whenever
Mhm.
the traffic hits onto the on-premise. So from the on-premise, I can send back the the traffic onto the AWS via express route. Sorry, via direct connect. But
So
here you will be having a latency, Ratna. I
mhm.
just would like to highlight it here. So you'll have a latency, but you will be it will be like end-to-end protected.
Okay, good. So so do you had experience on GitLab also?
GitLab, yeah, I do have it, Ratna. I do have it.
Okay, so let's go with. I will give a scenario like. So let's say I have a GitLab CI/ML, which has just the declaration part. So basically, we are just declaring the stages over there, like build, package, and deploy. So and the definition part is in different YAML file. So let's say we have build.yaml, package.yaml, and deployment.yaml. Okay. So how will make sure that when a pipeline is triggered, like some developer is making a change and it triggers the pipeline, this build, package, and deploy jobs with the definition are included in this GitLab CI/YAML. So, what commands are the what keywords will we use to make sure that all these YAML are included in our GitLab CI?
Can you come again, Ratna?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, let's say we had a GitLab CI/YAML file. Okay, so which has just the declaration part. I mean, like, so let's say we had two things here. One is only we are defining the stages. Okay, in the particular YAML file, like build, package, and deploy, and another and the definition part is in different YAML file. Okay, so let's say we have a build.yaml, package.yaml, and also deployment.yaml. There are three different files. So how we'll make sure that when a pipeline is triggered, like some developer is making the change and it triggers the pipeline, this build, package, and deploy jobs with the definition are included in the GitLab CI/YAML. So what commands or what keywords will we use to make sure all these YAMLs are included in our GitLab CI? You got
Okay, okay. Yeah, got it, Ratna, got it. See, basically, your ask is like, you want to have a kind of a like library where you want to consume the library on a need basis, right?
yeah.
So here you are having a library, so where you have your build.yaml or deployment.yaml, or you have your pr.yaml. So where as part of our stages, what I will do is like, I'll go ahead and I'll use the include. I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and I'll use the include keyword. So where I will be mentioning in a particular stage, let's say like I want to go with the PR pipeline.
Mhm.
So now in the include state, I will mention what pipeline value that I want, and I will be passing parameters to it. I'll use a params. So where in the parameter section, I'll go ahead and I'll specify, okay, what is the branch that I want to scan for? And yeah, before that, I have to ensure that I need to pick the, the branch, in which branch the developer have developed the code. So I need to pick that branch, and that branch I have to pass it as a parameter to my PR pipeline, which is coming as a template. And then I have to ensure like against what branch that it has to be scanned. If you guys are following with your git branch strategy, then you
Mhm.
might be having multiple long living branches. Maybe like it might be a release branch, it might be a feature branch, it might be a master branch. So then I have to specify on which branch against the PR has to run. And not only that, I need to mention the other parameters like, what is a sonar project that has to be analyzed, and
Mhm.
what kind of a application is this, because whenever we say like a PR pipeline in the template, I might be having a template for node based or Java based or React based. So I have to pass the type of the application as well. So
Yeah.
based upon this, it automatically it triggers and it will pass the parameters and it will dynamically generate the ML and it will get applied. It make it happen.
Yeah, sure. So good. And coming to the Jenkins, I had one more question. For example, we already know that there is a master and slave concept in the Jenkins. So what is the main purpose and what is the main use of that? So we already know that I mean to say like it will be used for running multiple jobs in to reduce the basically burden on the master. So, but is there any another special benefit for us using that particular master slave concept?
Yes, of course, we do have multiple options like that. See, let me take a simplified example. So imagine like I'm having multiple applications running. Let's say like I have a Java based applications.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a node based application, and
Hmm.
I'm having a React based, and I'm having mobile applications.
Yes.
So where I need to run, my iPhone, mobile apps. I would like to build it. So now for all these guys, I'm using a single master. As you are aware, like, we cannot have a more than one master in Jenkins part, right? So now what I
Mhm.
have to do is like, since I'm having one master, but I'm having multiple categories of applications which I need to build it, and I'm going to have multiple pipelines that I have to configure. So now what I can do is like, I can perform an option of grouping. I
Mhm.
will pick slave one. Let's say like I'm having 4 slaves. I'll pick slave one. I will say like a dedicatedly slave one is only for a group called mobile apps. I'll take slave 4. I will say like, okay, this grouping is only for the Node.js. I'll pick slave 2. I'll say like this grouping is only for the Java. If in the future, if I'm having more number of Java builds, then whatever the group of servers given to the Java, I can scale only them and I can keep it handy. Not
Mhm.
only that, but also you don't need to have this entire slave concepts at all. Instead of that, you can go ahead and you can integrate your slaves with the concept of dynamic. So we have a
Yeah.
concept of dynamic slaves where I can integrate a Jenkins directly to my Kubernetes cluster. On a demand basis, automatically scaling will happen in the cluster. So
Yeah.
where I don't need to even worry about how many slaves are running, how to manage these slaves, because end of the day, when you're going with dynamic slaves with any Kubernetes cluster, then it's just a maintaining and managing an image. So I'll create a 4 images, one for Java, Node, React, and mobile apps, and I can scale whatever the pods that I want based upon the team.
Sure. And thanks. And coming to the Kubernetes part, so I would say like we will be having a disk pressure condition arises. Okay. So like basically, what is the reason for that, and how to resolve the disk pressure issues?
If you see this statement, right, disk pressure. So generally what happens is like whenever you're doing a deployment, so we generally tend to keep pull the image every time whenever you do the image. So because imagine like I'm not enabling that option in the deployment, right? Image pull is an option. Every time we will be keeping it. So the reason why we keep it is like we want to pull the latest image all the time. You may never know like when we are going to update the image. So that's the reason we always keep it. So now what happens is like whenever you are trying to do any deployment, what it will do is like it will try to pull the image, even though the image is existing in the existing system. But still, your Docker demo on what it will do, it will go and it will try to pull the image. Where when it is trying to pull the image, it is going to perform an IO operation, read and
Uh-huh.
or input and output operation on a disk. So this is going to add a pressure onto the disk. So now
Okay.
how we can avoid this one? So how you can avoid this one is like based upon your workloads, how many times that you are doing the deployments, what is the disk capacity that you have allocated to your worker nodes. So you have to monitor it carefully and increase the IOPS value and
Uh-huh.
increase the capacity as well, so that it will not have a much pressure on the disk part.
Okay. And yeah, so I would say like let's move to Terraform. Okay. So
Mhm.
can you please explain the difference between the Terraform and other infrastructures as a code like CloudFormations or Ansible? Why we are going to use let's say Terraform? In what cases we need to use the CloudFormation or Ansible, whatever it is? Can you please let
Okay.
me know the process and the
Definitely,
use cases?
definitely. Yeah, Ratna, that's a nice question, right? See, Terraform. What is the main reason why industry 80% of industry is a tend to use Terraform is like there is no dependency on the platform, because if you are using a Terraform, then you can build the infrastructure seamlessly for your AWS, Azure, or a GCP, Oracle Cloud, whatever the cloud that you take. You can easily integrate with your Kubernetes deployment related things, or you can integrate with your Helm charts. Whatever the vendor that you want to inject directly, you can go ahead and you can inject it. Now, let's say like I am biased to the cloud. Let's say like if I am going with a cloud based, cloud native, let's say like I will go with the CloudFormation, or else I will go CloudFormation related to AWS, or I'll go with the ARM templates which are related to the Azure. Then what happens is like, I have to do the same work multiple times. Let's say like a simplified example. I want to build a, I want to onboard, I want to apply one Helm chart, let's say. So this is my requirement. So if I want to apply one Helm chart, so then I have to apply that code in the CloudFormation where I have to work one time, and the same thing I have to do it for my ARM templates, which is again another time for me.
Okay.
But if I am injecting a common platform like a Terraform, then what I will do, I'll simply develop the code. Whenever I want to change the provider, I will change the provider and I'll apply it. It's a one-time activity for me. I don't need to do multiple times. Not only that, but also Terraform is already, an enterprise graded platform where if in case like if something got screwed out, we even get a support from a vendor, and it is already consumed by multiple people where, it is a code ready. Whatever you want, you can go ahead and you can inject it. You don't need to explore something new out of it, where the implementation is a damn easy. These are all the different factors that which we have.
Sure. Super. So nowadays it is trending with GitOps actually. So are you aware of any of the tools that you are using on the under the GitOps and like Argo CD or Flux like that? Or do you have implemented anything in your current projects?
See, we don't want basically to add on, more complexity of more tools. Like, the more you
Yeah.
start adding the tools, you will be getting more maintenance work. So this
Yeah.
is one of the reason, why we don't want to add more tools to the project. Yes, I know, of course, the Argo CD, how it is working, what's the behavior, the orchestration part and all. But as of a current project, we are not consuming it because I already mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, right? We are using a Helm templating. So where we have a centralized templates. So where this entire workflow of auto applying of changes to different clusters is happening via Jenkins. So it's just a matter of like you mentioned GitOps. We are already pure following the GitOps process. Like when the developers wants to deploy the changes, they will be doing the changes in different environments. So we have created a common repository with all the microservices where every microservice is going to have its own AML. Like if they are having infrastructure on dev, UAT, SIT, PT, pre-prod and prod, they will be having those many number of AMLs with the values files.
Right.
So now whenever they would like to do the changes, they will simply raise a PR. They will ensure that it is getting approved from us. Once we approve it, we will merge it. The moment you merges it, immediately in Jenkins, I am having my deployment pipeline, which will sense the current changes, which microservice, which environment file got changed. Automatically, it will pick those values from the commits, and it will go ahead and it will call up the template. That is my Helm chart. It will download, it will apply against it. It will generate a dynamic AMLs, and these AMLs will directly go and get applied onto both my platforms. So this process is already a GitOps approach where everything is monitored, everything is governed.
Yes.
On top of that, we don't want to have a complexity of a tool. Hence, we are not much into the Argo part.
Nice answer, Shan. So had one more question. Like suppose a pod exceeds its memory limit, what signal will be sent to the process?
What signal? So it will send OOM, out of memory exception.
Right. So, and also for example, we need to ensure that a specific pod remains operational at all times. How to make sure that pod is always running? So what changes we are going to do that?
You can go ahead and you have multiple options over here. So one option is like you can go with a pod disruption budget, where you can go and you can apply it, where it will tell you like, okay, at any cost, this many number of pods are going to get applied. And the second option you can go with is like your, pod anti-affinity. So when you're going with your pod anti-affinity, let's say like you are keeping it as a 4 pods as your minimum replica with a pod anti-affinity, then it will not scale these 4 pods onto the same node. So it will ensure that it is running all these 4 pods in 4 worker nodes. So where we will be getting a end-to-end confidence level, where even though if 3 nodes are down, where these 3 pods are running, still my application will be up and running, because we don't have any dependency on the nodes here. because
Okay.
each one catch one policy, right? Every pod will
Mhm.
go and get
Yeah.
occupied to the individual nodes. So
Mhm.
in these two options, you can go with any of it. And on
Sure.
top of that, obviously, we'll be configuring HPA. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think so. We'll be having a HPA at the pod level you can configure, and we will be having auto scaling configured at the cluster level as well. The moment there is an issue with the nodes, automatically my cluster auto scaler will go ahead and it will start scaling the servers. So I feel we are protected.
Sure. Got it. And so, for example, this is a basic question I can say, like, but I was asking because just to understand what the things you had on that. And so basically, you are already aware of CloudWatch, right? So, in
Yes, yes.
that, so for a transit gateway, can you name some metrics for a particular transit gateway which you are going to use in the CloudWatch?
With regards to the transit gateway part, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
transit gateway, what is the incoming traffic that is coming?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And I can say like in terms of a transit gateway, just give me a sec.
Yeah.
In the transit gateway, okay. So transit gateway attachment,
Mm-hmm.
whether the attachment is active or it is false. So this one metric which I can go ahead and I can see what is the status of my transit gateway and what is the flow like once via the transit gateway what we do is like we send the traffic to the NLB
Mm-hmm.
for the whitelisting of for the whitelisting or for blocking the traffic. So where this NLB whether it is up and running or not, that also from the source side we can go ahead and we can configure that to
Okay.
validate whether the reachability is there or not. These two things we can configure. And apart from that, the amount of a load that is coming, that also we can monitor, like how much traffic that we foresee. Like let's say like am I getting like 1 TPS or a 2 TPS transaction, what is the workflow, so we can even monitor that one.
Okay, sure. So, and coming to the monitoring, so what are all the tools that you have been experienced into?
With regards to the monitoring part, I'm very good with Nagios. I'm good with Zabbix. I'm good with Splunk. Basically, it's not a monitoring tool, but yeah. So Splunk as a collector, I worked on it, and I do have exposure onto Grafana and Prometheus.
Okay, sure. So, do you know like how to create the dashboards and also how to make them visualize, and then how we are going to check the metrics and whenever there is a particular issue coming on a particular application, so what the process we are going to do. So, are you going to create the dashboards, or it's already done? Anybody from your team, and you are going to use that?
See, basically, I've done this part on the Splunk where Splunk. I have analyzed the logs. I have created a multiple metrics and I've created multiple dashboards where for the application point of view I did it. But as an infrastructure maintenance and management, we do have a separate team who will take care of this entire monitoring related things. So where we will raise a request with them and they will do the work for us. But yeah, but I have knowledge on this part.
Sure. And coming to the Kubernetes back again, so what is the main steps that will be involved, like for uh, upgrading a Kubernetes cluster? So this is a generic question, but wanted to know deeply, like why it is needed and what are the steps that we are going to do whenever we are going to upgrade a Kubernetes cluster, and what set of steps we need to keep on mind.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. Ratna, see, whenever we are considering why we have to go for a upgrade. See, first of all, thing is like upgrades are mandatory because even if you take your mobile, so whenever
Mm,
you try to connect to your Wi-Fi, what happens? You will see, right? Applications are getting updated. So why?
right.
What is the reason? Reason is to provide the security. Reason is to provide your continuous support. Reason is to ensure that your compliance is proper and your behind the scenes, if you see, the softwares are properly aligned. The latest versions of softwares are in implementation. This is the reason. But in terms of an Kubernetes, the same thing gets applied. But this is a mandatory from the cloud provider. Let's say like I will go with the EKS part. So what cloud provider will do is like he's not going to give you lifetime support because
Mm,
whenever you are behind a particular version, let's say like you are with the 3 point or 1.31 right now. So where vendor will say like, man, we are releasing a newer version 1.32 on so time. Let's say like a September 2025. If you're not updating, then we are going to stop the support. You're going to lose the support over there. It's
right.
a very, this is what a vendor is going to mandate that you have to do it.
Mhm.
So now in terms of your upgrade activities, so if you are going with a managed services like your EKS or AKS, then it is damn easy. where the end-to-end workloads will be maintained and managed by, because the main control plane components are being maintained and managed by the vendor itself, so we don't need to worry much. But as a precautionary measure, it is always recommended to take the etcd backup.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
in a managed services, we generally don't do it because it's a headache of a vendor itself. We don't need to take it because even you don't see those components where you can go ahead and take the backup in the managed services. But one recommendation from my side is like always automate everything whatever you can. So in my
Okay.
infrastructure, I have automated the entire Kubernetes cluster, that is your EKS as well as AKS creation with the code. So instead of me doing it manually, my code will go ahead and it will upgrade to the latest version. Whatever the version which I'm going to pass it as a variable, it will go and it will update. In terms
Okay.
of an application workloads, I don't need to worry. Like I told you, like everything is already configured in the GitOps way. Even though if I'm rebuilding a new cluster, it's just a matter of applying my Helm charts max to max in 30-40 minutes. I can rebuild my entire application. It's not a deal for me. But the only
Yeah.
component is like, yeah. So, but the general practice, what I recommend is like we will be creating a new clusters. It's always good to go with immutable infrastructure rather than mutable infrastructure. So since
Hmm.
we are already having all our applications available
Hmm.
in GitOps way, so what generally I do is like I will build a new cluster and then I will onboard all the applications onto that cluster, and
Okay.
then I will destroy the old cluster and I will release the new cluster, so that it will be always a clean way of doing the patching or upgrade activity. So end of the
Sure.
day, I'll be having the same URLs wells. I'm not going to change anything and it is not going to impact anything for anyone.
Right. So, and one more thing. So, for example, Kubernetes. So, a pod is running on two containers. When one container stops, another container is still running on this event. I want to terminate this pod. So, what steps I need to do?
First of all, we generally don't recommend any application
Yeah.
workloads to be running on multiple containers.
Right. That's
So
it.
I treat that is if you are running any application on two different containers, I treat that it's not an application ideally, right?
But
So
yeah.
it might be a non-workloads. I mean, like application is not so critical for us if this is the situation.
Yeah. But in this case, for example, if we want to make this terminate this pod, so what we can do in the particular steps?
Particular steps, if you ask me, I just need to understand the application behavior here, Ratna, in giving you the right answer. But since already container one is not going, let's take I will just give you a scenario, okay? So let's
Mhm.
say like I'm having an application where I'm running multiple containers, where I'm
Mm.
running one container as my vault init container. What that guy will do, he will come and he will inject the tokens and he will die. But
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
second container is my application container, which will be running. But end of the day, when you go and when you display the pod information, you will be seeing instead of 2/2, you'll be seeing 1/2.
Yeah.
So, which doesn't mean that my application is down. It means that my application is up and running, but Vault it did its job.
Right.
So now killing that pod means like I'll simply go ahead and I can execute kubectl delete - force pod name.
Yeah.
It will
So
delete the
and
pod.
yeah. So even if we apply that readiness probe and liveness probe for that also, so that also will help for that also as well, right? So
Um, but small statement here, like see, when you're going with your readiness probe,
mhm,
so readiness probe is going to help me when I'm going with the deployment part.
right.
So in this case, we are discussing about killing a pod forcefully or
Mm,
killing a pod.
yes.
Please correct me, Ratna. I mean, I just
Yeah.
like I might be wrong.
No, no.
Okay.
I mean to say like basically, yeah. So basically, pod is running in two containers. When one container stops, another container is still running on this event. So I want to terminate that this pod actually. So in that case, I'm trying to say like for example, we need to add a liveness or readiness probe so that it will query each container. If the probe fails, the entire pod will be restarted. And liveness object they will call the API runs so that it will be rerun. So are the terminated. So that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So, and coming to the like Azure DevOps, so Azure, not the Azure DevOps, I would say. Like, so in terms of Azure, like what are all the services you have been experienced into?
Whatever the services related to the DevOps, like virtual machines, virtual network, as well as your security groups, as well as the load balancers, as well as your traffic manager, your AKS, your Dockers, as well as the application services. So I'm more into this in the cloud part. In the DevOps, I have done end-to-end part in the Azure DevOps.
Sure. And I would say like this is a very I mean to say like normal question or the general question. Okay,
Okay, please,
so
please.
we already know that
Go ahead.
AWS, Azure, and also GCP, there are multi clouds. So why would some people refer the Azure? Some people refer the AWS, and also some people refer the GCP. Like, what will be in your opinion?
Okay, let me keep it in a different way. Okay, imagine like I want to purchase a TV,
Mhm.
right? So I have a trusted parties. We have Amazon and we have Flipkart. Both these two guys are very, very trusted. I can trust anyone. So I'll simply go ahead and I'll ask, man, who will give me for the less price?
Mhm.
I'll go and I'll take from the guy who is giving for less price, because these two guys are having good market state, good trust.
Yeah.
So likewise, if I go ahead and if I see my application, right, my company is having a good relation, right? Microsoft is not new, right? They might be new in the cloud, not that new, but yeah, they are in the market. They came to the
Yeah. Yeah.
market a bit late. Okay, but they
Yeah.
are having already customers where they are already sold different products. Microsoft Defender they have sold, Microsoft Outlook they have sold, Microsoft Teams they have sold, Microsoft Server license they have sold.
Mhm.
Multiple selling points are there where they're already a company is already trusted. Now on top of that, selling a new company for Microsoft, it's not a big deal. They can sell it. But company like Microsoft or AWS, they have to come up with some good discounted rate.
Mhm.
If they
Yeah.
are
That.
coming with a discounted rate,
Mhm.
then we will go ahead and we can pick it. It doesn't matter for us what cloud it is. And even if you see the current circumstances, what happened in the market, companies these days, they're not going to trust only one cloud, right? So they are
Yeah.
having, multi clouds, because you may never know which cloud will give you, downtime at what time.
Right.
So it's always good to have, multiple hands or multiple applications trust across multiple clouds, just to have, higher availability as well as a fault tolerance setup.
Yeah. Sure.
Shan, just a follow-up question.
Santosh.
I really like the example of comparing buying a television in Amazon and Flipkart, right? So my question is, do you consider only the cost, nothing else?
Not only that, Santosh, but also, in terms of a security and in terms of a compliance and in terms of support. These are all the different factors. But if you see all these factors, both the cloud vendors are good. So these guys are competitors, right? So we can make use of that competency between these vendors where we can pick up which guy is good. Let's say like if you're going with Microsoft, no one can beat in terms of a AD. They have so strong Active Directory. So where AWS is not that much good in that. So
Okay.
likewise, if I go with the integrations, application integrations, Azure is very, very good when compared to AWS, because
Okay.
already these guys are having a good integration platform available.
Okay. So you mean to say that along with the cost, the services that they're providing also makes, yeah.
Yes, absolutely right,
Okay.
Santosh.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks, Sean. Actually, we are running out of time. Thanks for your time on giving this interview for this role. So we'll get back to you on the updates, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely,
Thank you. Thank
Santosh.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ratna. It
Thanks
was
for
nice
your
connecting with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Yeah,
do you
till
have
the
any
time.
questions,
Thank you.
Sean?
I just want to know, Mahesh, like what exactly is this role? What would be the expectations from my side, so that I can improve them before I join this company.
Yeah, so basically, I can give this answer for this question, Shan. So basically, this is a kind of work which we'll be doing on multi clouds, okay, with kind of dominance work needed for Kubernetes part, which needs to be implemented with end-to-end culture, okay. So basically, we are using multi cloud tenants, and also we are responsible for infrastructure provisioning as well. Yeah, I would say like there is multiple roles like which we need a like, expert for this particular position. Yeah, this is mainly on a strong point I can say. And as usual, like we already know the DevOps tools, which is needed are incorporated for multiple tools with multiple kind of work culture they are going to use. In the same passion, we'll be having a set of tools. And I know we already covered about the interview between those tools and all. Yeah, that's the main agenda or to take this on the position. That's what about this position, Sam.
That's nice to hear, Ratna. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.